Okay, so it's 2 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. First, I want to introduce myself and Vanessa Hawes, who I'll be co-presenting with. She'll be around for the entire presentation to help me answer questions. And at the end, we'll do a Q&A as well. So I'm Kristen Purvis. I'm an instructional designer in the Office of Online Learning. And then we have Vanessa Hawes, who's the interim director and ADA 504 coordinator at the Accessibility Resource Office. So if Vanessa, if you want to say anything.
Hey, good afternoon. I've got Debbie Bullard here with me. We are thankful that you all joined us today to learn more about digital accessibility. It's such a big need and it's such a huge topic. So we are grateful for Kristen for putting so much time and effort. This is an amazing presentation. You will learn so very much. We're here if you need us. Kristen is here. We're happy to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Debbie Bullard is the accommodations coordinator for ARC. So she'll be here to field any questions as well. So we'll go ahead and get started now. Let me move that a little. Okay. So today we're going to focus on exactly what digital accessibility is and how you can incorporate it into your online course. Since the best way to learn is by doing, I encourage you to follow along with me in one of your Canvas courses and try some of these concepts in your online materials as we go through these. If you have any questions during the presentation, you can use the reaction button to raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself, or you can ask questions in the chat window and I'll try to monitor that. And Vanessa and Debbie will be helping me with that as well. So let's look at our objectives. At the end of this session, you'll be able to make informed decisions about what text, font, and color choices are appropriate for online accessibility. That utilize the heading structures in text documents, and that includes Word documents and PDFs. You'll be able to create alternative text to accompany your images. And this is useful for users who use screen readers. If they're visually impaired, it gives them a text description of what the image is, so they get the same information without being able to see it. And you'll also be able to use hyperlinks in your course with accessibility in mind. And overall, you'll be able to confidently make design decisions for ensuring online course accessibility. So first, an overview. What is digital accessibility? You've probably heard of accommodation and accessibility, and they go kind of hand in hand, but they are different. So I made this chart to show what the differences are and how they compare. So, and then at the bottom, I've got an overall takeaway, just that accommodation is there to assist one student, and accessibility is a strong foundation that helps everyone regardless of their background or abilities. And just some more details about the differences. Accommodations are intended to level the playing field for students with disabilities. In order to receive an accommodation, a student must have a medically documented disability and must register with your university's disability support office. Some examples of this are students who take a test in a separate setting, having a note taker or permission to record lectures, or using a sign language interpreter. Accessibility is a set of standards to ensure content on the internet is available to everyone, regardless of the means by which the content is acquired. It makes the content easier for everyone to absorb and does not require students to disclose information about any limitations they may have. Some examples of this are using highly contrasting text and backgrounds, like I have here with the white text on a black background, tagging PDFs appropriately with heading structures, and using closed captioning on videos. So here's a couple guidelines for accessible content. Text needs to be large enough to be easy to read. Color needs to be highly contrasting so that it's easy to read. Headings and structure should be marked appropriately so that it follows a logical flow, and we'll go into more detail about that on a following slide. And that allows it to be easily interpreted by screen reader devices. Alternative text is a descriptive text for images, and it indicates also when an image is for decorative purposes only. So the screen reader won't bother trying to figure out what the image is. And then hyperlinks should be formatted correctly in a different color than the body text and indicate the action that occurs when clicking on the link, such as link opens in a new tab or a new window, etc. Okay, so more in-depth look at text. All the text should be able to be interacted with. So that means you shouldn't just have like a screenshot of text because a screen reader won't be able to read that. Avoid using images of text. Simple fonts are used. Don't use anything cursive or with a bunch of serifs coming off of it. The text size is readable and appropriate in its context. One thing about this, if you write in all caps, it can come off as you're yelling at somebody, and that's not good. So avoid writing in all caps, at least if you're doing it for a whole paragraph. If you need to do it for emphasis on a couple words, that's fine. The text color should contrast strongly with the background. There should be explanations for abbreviations and acronyms. This is especially important in scientific classes or nursing programs where students might not be familiar with all the acronyms and abbreviations yet. And that's something that you could include in your syllabus or in your Start Here section in your online class. And you should also utilize built-in bulleting and numbering formats just to make it easier for students to follow along with the lists and things. And here I made an example of bad text choice and a good text choice. So you can see the cursive one is pretty small and difficult to read because it's, scrolly. And then the good example, I made it larger and it's a sans serif font. I think I just used Arial. Okay, next is color. Whenever you use color to convey information, like if it's a link or if you're using it to emphasize a word like due date or something like that, you should also use another method besides color for conveying that it's an emphasized word, such as using bold, which didn't show up too well on this particular font, but you can bold it, italicize it, or underline it. Provide good color contrast between the text and its background. Black text on a white background is always a solid choice. And then avoid the use of red, green, or colors that are rich in red or green hues. That's a very common color blindness color, red and green together, so it's hard to distinguish between those. Black text on red background or red text on black background can be difficult for people with color blindness as well. So in the bad example I have here, I did a medium gray with red text for emphasis, and I didn't use italicized or underlined choice for also conveying the due date. And then on the good example, I used yellow on a black background, and I italicized and underlined it. So let's see. For headings and structure, you'll want to divide the material into sections and subsections. Navigate through the menus. It helps it, the headings and structure are highly compatible with screen readers and other assistive technology. And then I just did a little example here where we'll go more in depth to this in just a second. You can see that this doesn't really logically flow. The Welcome to English 101 should be heading number 1, and it should be bigger and more emphasized. But then textbooks is actually heading 1, and it's a different color. And so there's no logical flow to that. And then in the second one, you can see it looks a lot more natural. So now let's look at this Word document. This is just a sample syllabus that I got online. So you can see here, all of this is just body text. Well, one of them was a heading. Maybe not. Okay, template for syllabus is heading 1, but that's not even gonna be viewable by the student, so we can just get rid of that. Really, this should be heading 1. So what you do is you just highlight it and then click on heading 1. And you can leave all that as body text. And then for course description, you'll want to use heading 2. Same thing for all these. That one as well. And then down here for course requirements, you can do heading 2. And then for assignments, field experience, things like that, you could use heading 3. See if we can find that. There we go. And as you can see, it doesn't look too different just visually, but it tags it differently so that when a screen reader is interfacing with this, it reads it differently, and it helps the student understand the information a lot better. So are there any questions about headings before I move on to the next slide? Nope. Okay. Let me go back to the presentation. Where did it go? There we go. Okay. So just to reiterate, heading 1 is usually the page title or the main content heading. So for a syllabus, it would be syllabus title and the name of your course, things like that. Heading 2 are usually major section headings. So, heading 3 is a subsection of heading 2. Heading 4 is a subsection of 3, and so on and so forth. I think it goes down to 6. Yeah, ending with 6. So that's it for headings. Next is alternative text for images. The simple guiding rule for image use within course resources is that it should have a meaningful textual description of the information each image represents. If the image is just used for decorative purposes, like a scrolly line just to separate sections or something, you don't have to put alternative text for that, but you do need to open up the alt text window and then just click down here, mark as decorative, so the screen reader can disregard it. The description here that you would type in is called the alternative text. It should be complete enough to replace the image entirely and convey the same meaning. It should still be concise though. So for this image, I put the alt text, the company booth at the trade show. People are crowded around the booth having conversations. So you can still get the gist of what's going on in the image and use that information to expand your knowledge and understanding of the material. So I think that's it for alternative text. Let me see if I can give you a quick example of how to do this. Okay, so this is an image, the logo. So how you would get to alt text is you just right click on it and go to edit alt text. Then this pops up and they've already sort of tagged it with alternative text, but you could type logo here. University. And there you go. That's it. And then when you click on it again, it has saved it. So, and then once again, if it's decorative, you can just click that and you can see that the alt text will just go away. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay, so hyperlinks. They should be clear in what content they're linking to and what action will occur when clicked. Like if it's going to open in a new window or a new tab, or if it downloads a file to the computer. That's a big one. If you have like a PDF linked within Canvas, people might expect that it would open in a browser window, but actually it's going to download on their computer, and that way they know where to find it once they click on that link. If it's a video, indicate so that users will know whether to mute their audio or put headphones on. That's important if they're like in the library or somewhere out in public where they don't want to make too much noise. For the good example here, I used a different color for the hyperlink. It's underlined, it's easy to read, and I know what to expect when I click on it, that the link will open in a new window. And then this is my bad example. You can barely even tell that it's different from the body text. It's difficult to even tell that it is a link. But it is. See, when I click on it, it opens up, but someone might not even know that they could click on that. And you want to be consistent with your choice of color for hyperlinks throughout the entire document. Just pick one that's a good accessible color choice like we went over earlier. Avoid red and green. Blue is usually a solid choice that's pretty consistent throughout various websites, that blue is the universal color for an external link. So I think that's it for the links. Okay, now let's do a quick activity to apply what we've learned so far.
Kristen, may I stop you just a second?
Sure.
We've got a question in the chat. It says all images need to be checked as decorative or have alt text, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Were there any other questions before I move on? It doesn't notify me when there's a chat message. I'm sorry. So it's hard to see.
I'm watching for you, no worries.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we can do this activity now. So if you have the answer to any of these or suggestions, you can unmute yourself or type in the chat. So just look at the before over here and tell me what you notice that's wrong with it or what could be improved.
So we probably want to change that top line so it's not in the cursive and also not red.
Correct, very good. That's the first one I have on my list as well. Anyone else?
With the second one, you probably want to use a different color, a more highly contrasting color. Use some kind of emphasis instead of the color for the dates.
Absolutely.
Either bold or something else besides the red and the green, since you said they don't show up well.
On the third example, the first line should be a lot larger, be consistent with the rest of the wording. That's something that jumps out at me.
Definitely.
And while we're here, I got a quick question. It sort of relates to this. Black and gold, the gold on that black background, is that considered contrasting enough?
Yeah, I think I've used an accessibility checker to check that because I was curious about that as well. I think it is. You could always, if the specific gold that UNCP typically uses doesn't look like it contrasts quite enough, you can always make it a little bit lighter. We do try to stay kind of consistent just for marketing purposes and whatnot, but accessibility is more important. So.
Well, yeah, I know that's one reason I've sort of tried to avoid it, because sometimes it just doesn't seem like it's contrasting enough. So, but I was just curious.
Yeah, I was doing a website design a couple months ago for an associate of UNCP, and they wanted to use gold on navy blue. And it was a little iffy because they wanted to use the same gold as UNCP, but I had to use a little bit lighter of a color just to make sure that it was accessible. So just go with your gut and use the accessibility checker, which we'll look into that in a second too, that Canvas has a built-in one that'll tell you if colors don't contrast enough. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I was going to say all of the light gray text could probably be a shade lighter or even just white.
Mhm.
And then that list of textbooks needs bullet points or something because I can't tell how many books that is.
Absolutely. Yep. That's why I picked that, because it had a bunch of commas in the one title name. Thought that would be a good one. But yeah, that's an excellent example of where a bulleted list would come in handy. I think you guys got all of them. So there's the big reveal of the new and improved one. So the font was changed to non-cursive. The colors were changed to high contrasting. There's consistent color emphasis on due dates with bold and underline. Or I guess they're not underlined. I don't know why it says that. The heading number 1 is only used once at the beginning. Heading 2 is used for the textbook section, and the textbooks are in the bulleted list format. So now we'll take a look at the tools you can use to make sure your course is digitally accessible. There's the Quality Matters rubric, which is available for free. There's section 504, which Vanessa and Debbie can explain in more detail if you're interested. The Office of Online Learning has put together a quality assurance rubric that we use to do course reviews whenever faculty submit them or complete the COTE course that we've put together. And then there's also the built-in accessibility checker in Canvas, which let's take a look at that now. Okay. I'll just go in here, make a new page real quick. Sorry, it's taking a second. Okay, so pretty standard black text on a white background currently, which is fine. Let's say, for example, though, that I decided I wanted to make this text light yellow for some reason. And I'll do this one also yellow, and then I'll highlight it green. So yeah, this is a pretty obvious example of something that wouldn't work, but then we would just come down here to this person in a circle, which is the accessibility checker. Click on that, and here we've got a couple issues. Text is smaller than 18 points or bold 14 points should display a minimum contrast ratio of 4.5 to 1. And then it gives you suggestions for text colors to change it to. Let's see if that works. Yep, so that took care of that issue. And then it's the same issue for this one. And that one didn't fix it, so do it a little bit darker. And there we go, no accessibility issues were detected now. So that's how the accessibility checker works. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Well, that concludes our introduction to online accessibility. If you want to learn more, there's a free 6-week course offered through NC State University, and that's where I got a lot of this information from. I took it about 2 years ago, but they offer it pretty regularly. Like I said, it's totally free. It's 6 weeks. It's self-paced. There's a lot of good information. everything I got from here, I think, was just from lesson 1. So it gets more in depth, but it's pretty straightforward, and it's a really good resource for learning more about online accessibility. And I've got that linked on the final slide here. Also got links to the Accessibility Resource Center here at UNCP, and then a couple resources that Vanessa and Debbie shared with me that they thought would be useful. And I looked at them as well. It's got a lot of good information on there. So, yep, if there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask now.
Thank you, Kristen. It was very informative. I just want to say thank you for putting that together.
You're welcome. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, note to self, my class agendas that I do for my hybrid courses, I was paying special attention to the different font size and colors because I tend to use that red. And I said, now I realize, nope, not doing that again. This is fitting. Anyway.
Good. Yeah, I used to use red a lot for emphasis on different things. And then because I had no idea until I took the course through NC State that it was a problematic color choice for fonts. So yeah.
But the good news is I am using the blue. It's just that I've got away from the blue, starting using the red. I'm going to go back to the blue because my students can see that better. That's why this was helpful.
Okay, great. Very good. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing now. If anyone wants a copy of the PowerPoint presentation we just went through, I can send that to you through email. And I've also got a brief survey that I'd like y'all to fill out. I'll drop that in the chat right now.